everyone, welcome back to the cottage. I'm Joey the Veiled Cottage Witch, and this is another episode of my Celtic Tree Ogham series. We are on the third branch and the second Ogham of that branch, the 12th Ogham, and that is Gort, Ivy, and that is the letter G in the Celtic alphabet, which is Gort Ivy, Sweetest of Grass. And I brought in a little cutting, and look how easily, I love it. I love Ivy. And I was thinking about wearing this as a crown, but I thought you guys wouldn't even see me. We are going to play with this a little bit later, but for now, it can be hanging out right up there for us as a little bit of decoration. And I love Gort Ivy. It is so beautiful. My favorite thing is seeing houses with ivy all the way down the buildings. And I asked my wife this morning how long it would take for ivy to grow on my cottage and where it would grow, if it did grow. And she said it would take over your mural. And I said, oh, I'd be okay with that. Little ivy with my mural would be just fine with me. Yeah, so I said it would be just fine with me. I would have no problem with that. So we have, here is Gort Ivy, 2 slashies. Oh, me and my slashies, righties, lefties. Here we go. There we go. And let's take a look. This is probably my favorite card in the whole deck of Sherilyn Hidalgo's deck of Celtic Tree Oracle. So beautiful and so very true to form. You've got these shiny heart-shaped leaves. You can see all the veins that go through that, and then the beautiful vining that Gort does. And then here is our green man, our Spirit of Nature Oracle. And here you can see the green man. It's at night, so it's hard. But right here, and the nose, can you guys see that? He's kind of hiding. But there you go. And you can see all the little intricacies and everything in this card that make it. There's the spiral, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, I love Ivy. It's just so beautiful to me, and it has so many wonderful uses. It is the ultimate climbing plant. It's dependent on a host tree or other like walls for support. It can grow almost anywhere, and it's strong enough to force itself through plaster or brickwork. I just love that. And it's often identified with immortality, resurrection, and rebirth. And that's because of its spiral growth when it takes over. And it's often connected with wild or fey characters. And here we get into some interesting things. The ivy crowns were worn by the Greco-Roman gods, Dionysus and Bacchus. And there's a reason why. They're associated with wine and revelry, as well as the forces of nature. When you see these big buildings, these ruined buildings, quote unquote, it feels like ivy is literally coming to take it over. Like the forces of nature are there to claim it back as their own, and I love that. Now, it was believed that steeping ivy leaves in the wine made it more potent, while also alleviating hangovers. And in this aspect, ivy was associated with prophetic intoxication, something very important in the classical world, as well as in the Iron Age Druids. They drank this potion, right, with their wine, and they were able to sort of astral travel and bring back wisdom from the underworld / otherworld. And they were also able to enjoy their wine over and over and over. And they just got so intoxicated, and but didn't have to pay the price of a hangover. And they were just, have these such strong hallucinations that were actually like prophecy. So I loved that. Now, the priestesses of Bacchus Dionysus, known as Maenads, were known to have drunk a poisonous potion, a little bit different, of ivy leaves, pine sap, and flyagaric mushrooms that induced ecstatic visions. Now, these Maenads wore fawn skins and carried a sacred staff called a thyrsus, and we get to see this here, which was wrapped in ivy leaves and topped with a phallic pine cone. Now, the Greek poet Orpheus, who wrote about this Dionysian rite, was torn apart by a pack of delirious Maenads. And like the Welsh hero Bran the Blessed, the head of Orpheus continued to sing and prophesy. Isn't it funny how we can find stories from different cultures that have the same details? Isn't that so strange? We can find, Jesus and Mithra, who basically went through the same stories. And the same myths will just follow through to other cultures. I don't think that's coincidence. I don't think that's coincidence at all. So ivy is particularly feminine in nature, and in the British Isles during the Middle Ages, there was a summer solstice tradition with lingering pagan overtones. Just about everything surviving is, as we know, a boy wearing a holly crown and a girl wearing an ivy crown were paraded around the villages, poetically mocking each other in a formalized battle of the sexes. I mean, can you imagine, like, boys rule and girls drool? Like, can you imagine? The holly is ruled by the sun and the ivy by the moon. So this also repeats the motif of duality. Now, due to his crown, the boy symbolized the Holly King, lord of the underworld and counterpart to summer's Oak King. The ivy was given to the girl as a symbol of the goddess of the green world, and also perhaps the fairy queen, whose fruitfulness is never diminished. So, we could have just kind of done the whole Holly King and Oak King thing, but now it's fairies. So I think that's kind of cool. Now, the ivy is an ideal representative of goddess energy at this time. Unusually, the ivy flowers in autumn and seeds over winter into springtime, revealing its extra potent life force and its goddess-like ability to be fertile through the winter months. The youth of the holly and ivy at these festivals also signifies the increasing sexuality that would ensure the fertility of the coming year. And this sexual energy can also be seen in the ivy's entwining and embracing patterns of growth. So here we have man imitating nature and nature imitating man. And I love it. I find some good stuff for you guys. Thought-provoking, right? Now, ivy's entwining habit also represent the movement and cycles of the heavenly bodies, the stars and planets. And it's symbolic of the knowledge and understanding of the way in which these movements are reflected on Earth. In particular, ivy represents the spiraling cycles of the moon, of which there are just over 12 in each lunar cycle. Now, through its influence upon the waters of the earth and female menstrual cycles, the moon governs fertility and the continuation of life as well as death. And even in this card, you can see the moon right there in the background as a symbol of that. Now, the traditional Christmas carol, you knew I was going to bring this up. The holly and the ivy, which is seen as the celebration of Christ's suffering, also concerns the differences between sun god and moon goddess, as well as the pulls and influences of the perpetual cycles of the sun and the moon. And the rivalry between holly and ivy can, on its simplest levels, also be interpreted as symbolic of the domestic war of the sexes. So I love that parallel. Ivy reminds us of the movement of the heavens and the way that this is reflected on the earth. It has the ability to bind all things together. It can wander freely, linking tree to tree, or form dense thickets, check this out, that block out the sun and restrict passage. Yeah, like, do not enter. That is like the forest telling you, do not enter. It has claimed that land as its own. Love it. Now, because of its association with paganism, this is going to make me a little bit mad, and I will try not to get heated. I will try so hard. It's hard for me not to get heated about this, but I'm going to try. The use of ivy for decoration within church buildings was forbidden in England. What? Ivy was pagan? No. No, it's not. It's of the earth, y'all. However, its association with resurrection was too much to ignore, and the plant's reputation was revived. What? What are we talking about? Oh, yeah, your tree is too pagan. You're going to have to take down all the trees. Oh my gosh. Oh. Okay. We're moving on. In Scotland, strands of ivy were draped over barn doors to ward off witches. And if ivy grew on the walls of a house, the occupants were safe from witches and misfortune. Now, if the ivy died, the family was in for disaster. In England, wearing the crown of ivy on Beltane Eve was said to enable a person to see witches. In the Balkans, woody pieces of ivy stems were worn as charms. So this would be considered a charm because it's the woody piece. So yeah, you could You could wear that as a charm. You absolutely could. Now, according to love divination, if a young woman put an ivy leaf in her pocket before leaving the house, the first man she encountered would become her husband. Now, a sprig of ivy placed under a bed pillow would cause a person to dream of their true love. That says the Lord, says the Lord. Now, the lesson of the ivy. Ivy brings shelter or overwhelming darkness. You can see how dark. You can see how dark this is for sure. And reminds us that where there is life, there is also death. Ivy represents the wandering of the soul in its search for enlightenment, and it carries a warning to be sure of the direction of your desires so that you avoid being entangled by them. True progress is made, however, when all the lessons of the preceding trees have been linked together with ivy in such a way that the light can still enter and no limb need break. Don't you love that? That was awesome. That was from The Wisdom of Trees by Jane Gifford. I'm going to start adding those lessons in every week. So I think that's so cool. All right, practical and magical uses. The soul's journey is reflected in the route the ivy takes as it grows on and between trees in the woodland. And this may well be a major reason for its inclusion in the Ogham. The leaves are heart-shaped and can also provide many clues to its nature and its usefulness to us. The ivy both supports and is supportive, binding together and uniting many other things, other beings wrapped in its gentle embrace. When ivy grows on its own along the ground, it is far weaker than when it climbs and grows in union with other plants. Isn't that interesting? This is a good lesson for people who are similarly weakened by isolation and enriched by living as a part of the community. I love that. I love that. The ivy is an excellent ally for developing wisdom in social situations and to and to harmoniously bind communities. As related to magic, it assists with connectivity and group matters. It teaches that we need each other's support and shelter, and it stresses the importance of giving support and shelter to others. Yet, the ivy also gives us a warning that this is a two-way process between people and energies that needs to be carefully regulated for fear that the power of the ivy burden its host or wilt and weaken all alone. Like the ivy, none of us is ever solely self-sufficient, nor should we be, but neither should we be entirely dependent on another for our needs. Absolutely. Carry an ivy leaf in your pocket or tell the plant your concerns if you feel socially awkward and learn from its example. I love that. Ivy was thought to protect cattle from enchantment by the fairies, and it was worn by milkmaids for the same reason. Yeah. Grow ivy on your property or place as a houseplant in the front window to guard against negative energy and to attract luck. Now, this next one, I'm going to do it for you. This is a little candle I put together made of beeswax. I'm not going to light it or anything, but I'm going to show you what they're talking about. Wind a piece of ivy around the bottom of a candle as part of a binding spell. So let's just say I wanted to bind myself to, let's say, a new job that I wanted to keep. Well, I would just round and round, and I would bind it there, and I would bind it there. Too easy. I love Ivy. Look at it. It's so cute. I'm just going to leave it there. We'll put my little binding spell over here so it doesn't get in the way. But I saw that and I was like, that is such a cool little spell. I'm going to use it. And I totally am. Once my wife gets her spell that she did a road opener for yesterday. All right. Place a couple sprigs on your altar for spiritual journeys that take you inward as well as guide you back out into everyday life. Ivy's instrumental when seeking personal and spiritual growth. Incorporate white ivy leaves. If you guys haven't seen white ivy, it is gorgeous. I'm going to show you a picture right here. Into your lunar rituals as they are associated with the moon. To represent the balance of light and dark, place ivy on your Mabon or Ostara altar. And ivy is associated with the goddess because it grows in a spiral, which is one of her symbols. So create a spiral on your altar with a strand of ivy or draw a spiral on a picture of ivy to symbolize your spiritual journey through the wheel of the year. Ivy is often worn to carried to ensure fidelity between partners, as well as to grant fertility, particularly to older women. Ivy swept around an area is said to clear away negativity and bring good luck. Growing ivy upon the walls of a house is said to bring wealth and bind the family together. Oh, this is when I was like, when do we get to grow ivy on our house? Ivy is under the rulership of the planet Saturn and is used for binding spells and underworld, otherworld connection, as it is associated with the Egyptian god Osiris, as well as the Greek Orpheus's journey into Hades. In binding spells, ivy wreaths, as we just made, are a good substitute for cords or threads, and the spirit of the plant may assist you in the magic if it senses your aim is just. If it senses your aim is just. If you're just being petty, it's not going to help you out. It's not going to help you out. All right. It was once believed that dreaming of ivy meant that your lover was unfaithful, and that if ivy grew upon a young woman's grave, it meant that she died of a broken heart. Yeah. I don't know. That seems awful much assuming. And I try not to assume. All right. Here are your linked concepts. So these are the keywords to remember when you can use your Ogham or you can use ivy. Community, support, binding, constricting, wealth, balance, duality, spiritual journeys, connection, divine feminine, and the moon. So, yes. On to correspondences. The elements are air, earth, and water. Your deities are Bacchus, Dionysus, Kronos, Danu, Freya, Hermes, Loki, the Muses, Oma, Osiris, Pan, Persephone, Saturn, and Anubis. Your color is sky blue. I don't know why I did such a dark blue, but there it is. Your totems are the boar, butterfly, the lark, the mute swan, the swallow, wren, spider, wolf, fairies, and satyrs. The calendar is August 8th through September 4th, the 12th lunation, and August and early September. Your related species, your Aureliaceae. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sometimes I skip it if it's too hard. I'm only human. All right. Ginseng, the common ivy, the Boston ivy, and the grapevine. I consider that all the same as ivy, but the ones I have up here, they're just English ivy. All right. So for healing, herbally, ivy is now commonly considered poisonous. Womp womp. And it is certainly toxic to many and can cause severe allergies in some people. Caution and common sense should be used. Historically, a poultice of ivy leaves were used for wounds and sores, and some old sources refer to ivy leaves being boiled and used as a salve for sunburn, vaginal infections, and skin irritations. Dried and powdered leaves were a popular inhalant to clear congestion. But listen, there are so many other plants you can use for that. Watch my magical plant series, eucalyptus, calendula, a bunch of other things that you can use for that purpose. You do not need to dive into ivy for that. And there's a reason, and I will bring that up in a minute. According to the 17th century Gerard, ivy-infused water was an excellent wash for eye infections. Ivy berries are highly toxic for humans, and ivy should never be used medicinally other than by qualified herbalists. Now, this sentence, I think if you get nothing out of this entire episode, I want you to take this to heart. This was wonderful. It is part of the mysteries of the Ogham that as we progress through them in order, the practical uses for each diminish and their spiritual aspects increase. So that's what you can expect going forward. And I was like, aha, okay, I'm on board for that. All right, keeping that in mind, in medieval times, ivy was an ingredient in the spongia somnifera, where a sea sponge was soaked in opium, henbane, lettuce seed, and other opiates together with ivy as a form of anesthesia. However, it was unlikely that they were very effective, and they were certainly quite toxic and dangerous. Now, as a vibrational essence, ivy is good for learning to give and receive support and to learn to give and feel unconditional love. It is fitting that it follows Moonvine, as this also reminds us of unconditional love and the endless giving of the goddess. It helps with the letting go in life and giving loved ones enough space and freedom, as well as giving this to yourself. Yes. It is excellent for connecting groups and communities and for understanding group consciousness. I think our coven is going to do a working with ivy. I think we're going to do that. I think we need to. All right. So for divination for this one, if you draw it up right, where are we at? There we are. It means you're breaking down barriers, perseverance, persistence, and adaptability, right? Now, drawing it with the roots up is reversed, feeling constricted, You have restrictions on you and blockages. Now, pay attention, guys. If that is showing you that you have blockages, I would, if I were you, would draw another one. Okay, here we drew oak, oak. So that means your blockages is coming from your endurance and your strength. There's a door closed to you. That is why you have a blockage. There is a door closed to you. You see how I did that? That shows you have a blockage, and this is showing your blockage. So now you just learned how to do a clarification. You are welcome. So that was Gort Ivy. Thank you so much for joining me and learning all about binding and, restricting, and learning all about that spiral of growth. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning about this plant, as I do about all of the plants. I think that going forward, how we're going to learn more about the spiritual and less about the practical, I'm on board. Totally on board. So please give this video a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any more. I think the next one is Magickal broom. So we get to learn all about that. I think that's what's next. If not, no, I think that is. I think it is. You guys, I'm learning so much more about these, and I'm going to be a better Ogham reader thanks to you guys. So thank you guys so much. Please visit my website at theveiledcottagewitch.com, where you can book a reading, book a service, book a class, book a workshop. Our workshops are awesome. And you can also shop my holistic healing products and my ritual and spell aids. Just remember at checkout to enter the code word all caps veiled to get your free shipping. That's a huge discount just for making it to the end of this video. So my gift from me to you, because I love you guys so much. Last but not least, if you'd like to throw a little tip to tip your witcher, you can do that 3 different ways, down in the comments, or I'm sorry, down in the description box, but not necessary. Just live your best life and live for yourself. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.